All right, folks, welcome. So last section here of Unit 2. So we're on Unit 2.4, which is buying, renting, or leasing. So this is going to have pretty big overlap if you've done any of the Financial Literacy 30 classes, which or if you're new to the program, you have to do. So there's a couple of definitions here that we kind of need. So first one here is going to be lease. So a lease is a contract for purchasing the use of property, such as a building or vehicle, from another for a specific period. The most common example of this for you, the consumer, probably would be, for example, leasing a car, aka maybe I pay $500 a month for 3 years to lease a car. I get maybe 10,000 kilometers a year. After 3 years, the car is returned to the dealer. This is the most common example here, right? So I don't own the car. Whereas if I buy a car, right, because it's buy, rent, and or lease, um, maybe I need a loan for that. Maybe in a 3-year loan, that's $800 a month. I get unlimited kilometers. After 3 years, I own the car and have paid it off. So there that now obviously there's pros and cons to that, right? One's more expensive than the other. Catcher. We also have equity. So equity is the difference between the value of an item and the amount still owing on it. For example, what is this? This is $800 times 20 times 36 months, 28,000. So this is the case of a $28,880 car here, right? After 1 year, I've paid 12 times 8, 8,090. After 1 year, I've paid $9,600. I still owe, what is that? $19,200 looks, right? So I still owe $19,200 on my car after 1 year. So I have a negative equity of $19,200, right? And they have an example here, right? $25,000 down payment is made on $230,000 on our home. I still owe $205,000. It's still owing, and $25,000 is the equity of the portion owned, right? So in this case, equity of the portion. So you can look at it this way: a negative equity is how much I still owe. Positive equity, or we usually just say equity, would be $9,600. I own $9,600 of this $28,000 car. Okay. So that's what equity is. Now, we've talked a lot about assets before, so this shouldn't need too much of an introduction here. But what the heck is an asset? Well, an asset is a term or a portion of item owned. Basically, for example, it's, hey, I have something. It's something of considerable value. Maybe it's if I go to a car loan for if I go for a mortgage loan rather, I need to list all my assets. Maybe I own a car or I own some equity of a car. That's an example there. Oops. So maybe I own a car. Maybe I have $10,000 in savings. Maybe I have I don't know, $5,000 of bonds or something, whatever it is. It's something that has a value. Um, they don't really care about your Pokemon set. They don't care about something unless it's worth a fairly considerable amount, right? You're not going to list the I own a I own a Dyson vacuum that costs $800. They don't really care about that part of it. They don't care about your $2,000 TV. They want something with a little bit more oomph in it. All right, so these are all some examples here. Is there anything else we kind of need here? Yes. We also have something that appreciates and depreciates over time. So appreciation and depreciation. So the increase in value of an asset over time. Maybe I have a stock or a bond. It grows in value over time. Maybe I have even a collectible or gold or something or silver. Those are all worth a lot. And Pokemon cards are all the rage. Either ways, these are examples as well as stocks or bonds or whatever or investments, right? Whereas depreciation, the value goes down over time. Most common example. What is the biggest thing that most people lose most of their money on? What is the single most appreciated asset of any person, regular person's life? Vehicles, right? I took out a loan for a $28,800 vehicle. It's not still worth $28,800 after I put on 3 years and 50,000 kilometers. It's worth less over time, right? And the more kilometers that are on that vehicle, the older that vehicle, the less value it holds, right? And so if you just go, I'm going to get a car loan. I'm going to drive this car. I paid off my car. I'm going to get another one. I'm going to get a car loan. I'm going to pay off this car. I've paid off my car. I'm going to get another one. If you just keep doing that, all you're doing is you're burning $10,000 a year. So don't do that. Is there anything else? No, I know there's going to be more other definitions here. Yes, disposable income. So disposable income is the amount of money that someone has available to spend after all regular expenses and taxes have been deducted. For example, if I have a $2,000 monthly income, I don't know, 800 of that goes to rent, 200 goes to food, 400 goes to like miscellaneous things like entertainment and makeup and clothes and blah blah blah. At the end of the day, I have $600 in disposable income. That's an example of that, right? Uh, I believe that was it. Yes. Okay. So let's jump into this here. We're not going to do every example. We are going to do a couple of them here. So we're going to start with this one here. A lot of writing. I do apologize, but these get more complicated. It's a complicated math class. So Amanda is a civil engineer. She needs a vehicle for work and on average 12 days each month. She's been renting a vehicle when she needs it. The advantage to renting for her is that all she does is she fills the gas tank and drops it off after she's done. But the disadvantage is that she has to spend time arranging for the rental, picking up the vehicle, and getting it home after dropping it. She is wondering if renting is the most economical choice and wants to consider her options, right? So she can buy or she can rent a vehicle or she can lease a vehicle, right? Those are her options. Or she can take the Shoelace Express. So she has a couple options. Option one, she could lease a vehicle, right? What's lease again? That's I'm renting it for a little bit of a time and then I give it back to you. So I can lease a vehicle which requires a down payment of $4,000. She pays $280 a month plus tax. She needs insurance at $12,020 each year, which would be paid monthly, and she would have to pay for repairs and maintenance, which would be about $50 a month. For her 4-year lease, she's looking at, she would have no equity in the vehicle at the end of the term. She owns nothing of the vehicle, right? She doesn't own any portion of that vehicle in any capacity at any point. So that's option one. Option two, she could buy a vehicle for $32,800 and finance it for a 4-year term at 4.5% interest, compounded monthly. She would have the same insurance, the same repair, and the same maintenance costs as she would for leasing the vehicle. However, she gains equity of the vehicle, right? If maybe she's paid off that vehicle after 4 years, she owns whatever's left of it. And option three, she could continue to rent at $50 per day plus tax, and there's some other stuff there, um, with unlimited kilometers. Which option is better? Would you recommend for Amanda, and why? So at this point, I'm going to be honest with you. You guys have the capacity to be able to solve this question, and I want you to actually try that. So pause the video, and try and solve it, and let me know what your answer is, and unpause it when you're good to go. I don't know how long I haven't been recording. I'm sorry, I have to go through it all again. So she had three options, right? Leasing, buying, and um, renting. Now for leasing it, $4,000 down payment, $380 a month times 4 years. I end up with this 18,000 figure. Here's your insurance figure. Here's your maintenance figure over all 4 years. You add it all up, you get 29 grand, 29.5 grand. You divide that by 48 months, you get $615 a month, but $0 in equity. When you buy, now you may have done this A equals P 1 plus I thing, which is a good way to calculate the investment amount. But you got to remember, she's doing a car. She's doing monthly payments. She's slowly and slowly chipping away at that principal. So there's less interest being earned every month. Maybe month one is $100. Month two is $99. Month three is $98. So on and so forth. So instead, if you figure out what the monthly payments are, because I know all the rest of this stuff, I figure out what the monthly payments are, which is $747.95, times that by the 48 months, add your maintenance, add your insurance, then divide it by the 48 months. I can see this is $897.95 a month. Now I goofed up. I forgot to add the $80 here. So this should actually be $899, but whatever, you get the point. Option three was renting. So $50 a day plus tax. So let's say 10% tax. That's $55 a day, 12 days a month. She's paying $660 a month. So here's our options. So between renting and leasing, wait, no, sorry. I goofed up. Between renting and leasing, $660. Sorry, $659.88. So between renting and leasing, which one of these is better? It is leasing, because it is cheaper in this instance. You can make the argument she gets the same car as well. And she always has it available for even for non-work stuff. So you can make the argument that leasing is probably better. I goofed up. I don't know what I did there. So she should lease it. It is the cheapest option. If she wanted equity, if she wanted to own her car after, she would buy. But you can see this is about a $250 difference every single month for 4 years. Now, if that car is worth $32,800, awesome. But that car's not going to be worth that. That car is going to undergo depreciation, which brings us to example 2, which is solving a problem that involves vehicle depreciation. So, for this one here, we have a luxury vehicle rental company depreciates the value of its vehicles each year for 5 years, right? Because the vehicles are going to be worth less. The older they get, the less and less they're worth. The more kilometers you put on, the less and less they're worth. Now we're going to be sticking with the simplest conception of this because it's a very complex thing. But at the end of the 5th year, the company writes off the vehicle for its scrap value. It uses a rate of 40% per year, right? So it takes off 40% of its current value. So, for example, a $10,000 car would be worth $6,000 at the end of year 1. But then I'm not taking off another 4,000, I'm taking off 40% of 6,000. So I'm just picking random numbers here. So now 6,000 might be worth 4,000. And then a 4,000 might be worth 2,500. And then a 2,500 might be worth 1,500, and so on and so forth. I'm picking random numbers there. So you can see that the decreases get less each time, but it's still 40% of its current value. So what is the scrap value of each car below? Car A, which currently is 2 years old and has a value of $43,020. Or car B, which is 1 year old and has a value of $75,600. So that's question A. And question B is, well, how much is the original price of the car? All right. So I wasn't recording again. My bad, guys. So starting out here, we're going to look at this. So we're going to do is make a table. So make sure you guys get this in here. So we're looking at the years, the value at the start of the year, the value at the end of the year, and the depreciation amount during the year. So make sure you get, so pause that video, get that going. 3, 2, 1, boom. All right, so car A, we're going to start there. Is 2 years old and has a value of $43,200. So that's the end of year 2. We don't know the depreciation. We don't know any of this stuff. So right now, all we're trying to find is the value at the end of year 5, right? What's the scrap value? So, right, so we start year 3 with the same amount. Now we need to take this amount and times it by 0.6, right? Because I'm losing 40% of its value. So you need to find out what 40% of that is and take it away. So you could either do that, or you could do 43,200 minus 40%. If you figure out if either of these work, these do the exact same thing. I'm timesing it by 60% of its value, or you can find out what 1% is, what 10% is, what 100% is, and take away 40% of it. So if I do this, I'm only gonna write that in once, like the actual equation, just to save time, but it's 25,920. Sorry, this is what it's worth at the end. Sorry, that's what it's worth. To find out the depreciation value, I have to times it by 0.4, right? Because that's 40% of it. My bad. So times that by 0.4, I can see the depreciation value is $17,280. And how do I get this 25,920? I took this 43, I subtracted the 17, I get this. And we just keep on ending up with that same thing. 25920 times 0.4, 10,368. So that's 551,552. Same thing. That's what we start with. We roll 40% there. This will be $6,220.80. So it means our scrap value at the end is $9,331.20. Okay. So I'm going to circle that because that's the final part of it. Oh, that's the final part for this section. Now, at this point, I want you to try out car B. So figure out what car B is. I'll give you a hint though. It starts at the end of year 1 and it's worth 75,600, which means the start of year 2 will have that as well. So 3, 2, 1, pause the video, solve it. So at the end here, you should end up with this. So the final value here, the scrap value of car B was $9,797.76. So we have our scrap values here. Now, one thing I really want to make a note of is that cars do not depreciate this much in real life. They depreciate a bunch. They do, but they don't depreciate this much. But, if we're thinking like, car depreciates a lot, you think about this $32,800 example, this might only be worth $15,000 at the end of 4 years, right? So it's something to really consider. If you're like, well, it's $50,000 and I don't have a car payment, well, you're going to have extra maintenance more than before, right? Because stuff breaks as the older car gets. So, it's something to consider. I paid my personal car off last year, and oh boy, am I going to ride that thing until it explodes. All right. So question B, however, asks us, what was the original price of the car? Which means we got to work backwards. And there's a couple ways we can do this. One is, you have to take your value at the end. You have to figure out, well, what's the depreciation amount? Like, so this is, remember, think about it. Let's use this 75,600 thing here. So I took the new car price times 40 times 0.6 gives me the value, the end value, right? So start value times 0.6 is equal to the end value. I know what the end value is. In this case, it was $75,600. So if I take $75,600 and I divide that by 0.6, where am I getting divide from? Where'd you get that from, Matthew? Well, there was some algebra here, right? I need to get rid of this thing so that start value equals a price at its own. So the opposite of times by 0.6 is dividing by 0.6. So I divide both sides by 0.6. And if I do that, I will end up with the final value the previous year before the depreciation, which is $126,000. Oops. We'll make this blue. So in this case, for car B, it's $126,000. And then then I can figure out the depreciation amount, right? Take this, subtract this, you get whatever that is. In this case, it would be for car B, $50,400. So 3, 2, 1, I want you to go up. I want you to go and do these last 5 values here. So pause the video. 3, 2, 1. So what we can see here for car A, I'm just going to take what's from the book in this case. So it 28,800. So its value at the start of year 2 looked like it was 72,000, right? Which means that's its value at the end of the year. Which same thing, 72,000 divided by 0.6 gives you 120,000. So there we go. That's it. At this point, you guys are set up to be good to go. So what you should do is finish 2.4 in the workbook, finish 2.4 in the textbook. You should finish the assignment, and you should do the chapter quiz, which will be unlocked on February 2nd. All right. Awesome.